Welcome to the Visual Basic Instructional Series. In this tutorial, we'll look at events. Begin with a new project. Set the form name property to form demo. Then scroll down and set the text property, which will appear in the title bar, to demonstration. So we now have the initial setup for the form. Now, according to the example in the book, we're going to add 2 text boxes. So from the toolbar, select the text box, and in the Properties window, let's name it Text First. Add a second text box, and in the name property for this one, set this to Text Second. Now we'll add a button. Make the button the same size as the 2 text boxes. And set its name property to button red. Okay, scroll down and set the text property for the button and make it change color to red. Now this corresponds to the example that's in the textbook. What we're going to do next is to add some events. So if you double click on the first text box, you will open the code window. To see it better, let's remove the other windows from the IDE. At the top of the code window, you're going to see public class, and that's followed by the name of the form, in this case form demo. At the bottom, you'll see the 2 words end class. Whenever you're doing editing in this window, be sure that you do not change those 2 lines. In the middle, we're going to see what's called an event procedure. It begins with private sub and it terminates with the word end sub. The name of each procedure is a combination of the name of the control, in this case text first, followed by the event, and in this case the default event for a text box is called text changed. This will always be the technique used to name these subroutines or event procedures. Between the private sub and end sub, we type the instructions that we want carried out whenever this event is triggered. As you begin to type inside the event procedure, the IntelliSense feature will pop up, and this is Visual Basic's way to help you in writing code. According to the instructions in the book, we want to make the color of the text to be blue whenever this text changed event is triggered. So we write the line of code as text first, which refers to the control, followed by the property that we know we need to set to change the color of the text, which is forecolor, and then we follow that with an equal sign, and the IntelliSense gives us a list of colors to choose from. So we can continue to type color.blue, or we can select it from the list. So now we have a single assignment statement inside the procedure. Text first dot forecolor equals color.blue. Whenever the text changed event is triggered, then that assignment statement will make the forecolor property blue. We activate the form, and here you can see when we type into text box text first, indeed the color of the text is blue. Now let's double click on the button from the designer window, and when you double click, you immediately are sent back to the code window with a brand new event procedure for the button. It is named button red, followed by the default event for buttons, which is click. So this event procedure or subroutine is called button red _ click. Here we want to add a line of code that will change the forecolor of the text in text first to red whenever we click the button. So again, the IntelliSense boxes will pop up, and we write an assignment statement which assigns color red to the forecolor property of text first whenever we click the button. At the top of the code window, you'll see 2 drop-down lists. The one on the left-hand side shows a list of all of the controls that make up our project at this point. We have a form, we have a button, and we have 2 text boxes. On the right-hand side, there's a list of all of the available events that go with the control. So in this instance, we have chosen text first, and this list of events all correspond to available events that we can apply to a text box. The default event for a text box is text changed. We want to add another event, so we're going to choose the leave from the list of drop-down events. Whenever we do that, we get a brand new outline of a event procedure or subroutine added to our code window, and it's called text_first_leave. We're going to add another assignment statement in here that will set the color of the text to black whenever we execute the leave event. Okay, let's see how those work. Okay, beginning with the top text box, we begin to type, which executes our text changed event, and we see the color is blue. When we click on the button, that activates the click event for button red, and that causes the forecolor of the text to become red. When we click away from the top text box into any other control, that triggers the leave event, and that results in the forecolor becoming black. Now, let's close our form and go back to the design window. And let's go back to the code window. And we're going to add some additional events. So we're going to select text first from the left-hand side drop-down list, and we're going to select enter to add an enter event. This enter event corresponds to the text box text first, and you see the outline here added to our code window. Whenever we enter the text first text box, we want the background color to become yellow. So we will type out text first, then we'll select the property that we want to set, type an equal sign, and then type the value that we want to assign to that property. So now color.yellow is assigned to the back color of text first whenever the enter event is executed. So now we have an enter event for text first, and we have a leave event. Since we have the enter event to set the back color to yellow, let's add to the leave event a line of code or an assignment statement that will set the back color again to white whenever we leave. So when text first has focus, the back color is yellow, but whenever we move the cursor to any other control and execute the leave event, the back color returns to white. Alright, now let's add some events for text second. So select text second from the left-hand drop-down list, and then from the events on the right-hand list, select enter. So now we have an event procedure added to our code window, and we want to have the same behavior. Whenever we enter text box text second, we'd like the back color to become yellow. So we have an assignment statement that assigns the color yellow as the back color property of text second whenever the focus enters that text box. Let's also add a leave event so that we can return the background color to white whenever we exit or move the focus to some other control. So we have text second underscore leave. We add a single assignment statement that will assign the color white to the back color property of text second whenever that event executes. Now, start up the program, and you can see these in action. Whenever a text box has focus, the enter event has executed and the background is yellow. Once you click any other control, then the leave event executes for that top text box and the back color goes to white. When you enter the second text box, the back color is yellow. When you leave it, the leave event returns it to white. Now we're going to add some additional buttons to look at other things that you can do. So highlight the button and make a copy of it by using the Control-C key combination. Paste two copies by hitting Control-V twice. Arrange the two buttons below the one that we already have. Then we want to select the first copy and set the name property to button disable, and we want to set the name property of the second copy that we just pasted to button enable. Now scroll down to the text property, and with the bottom button highlighted, we want to set the text property to be enable text box text first. So this button will cause the first text box to become enabled when we press it. Then change the text property for the button just above that, the first copy we made, and we want it to read disable text box text first. So now we have made a copy of a button, pasted it twice, and changed the name and text properties of the two copies that we just made. Double click on the first copy, that is to disable the first text box. So the event procedure is named by the name of the button, which is button disable, and since we double clicked, we get the default click event to go with it. In order to disable any control, we want to choose the enabled property. So our assignment statement assigns the value false to the enabled property of text box text first. Okay, initially text first is already enabled, so when we click disable, you can see that the text will become gray. It's grayed out, and try as you might, you cannot type into that text box. So when the text box is disabled, you can see what's in it, but you cannot change the contents. So we have the disable event set. Let's double click on the bottom button and add a line of code inside this new event procedure, which will re-enable the text box text first. So in this case, we want to add a single assignment statement that will assign the value true to the enabled property of text first. So we use the enabled property, either setting it to true to make it enabled, or setting it false to disable a control. Okay, now we can type into the text box. We click disable. Now you cannot type into it, and it's grayed out. We click the bottom button, which activates the click event to enable the text box, and you can type into it again. Let's continue to add some more buttons. So let's make a copy of the last one with Control C and paste it twice by doing Control V followed by another Control V. So now we have two additional buttons. Select the first copy and go to the Properties window and set the name. And we're going to make it a button right, and we're going to use it to right justify the text. Okay, the bottom button, let's set its name property to BTN left. Okay, now we need to set the text property for each one. So for the first copy we made, we want to set the text property to right justify, and for the bottom one, we will set the text property to left justify. Okay, so to make these work, we get a click event by double clicking on the right justify button. So we have button right underscore click, and we need to add an assignment statement that will cause the text, in this case for both text boxes, to align to the right or justify to the right whenever we click it. To do that, we start to type text first dot, and we know we need the text align property. When you type equal, then the IntelliSense gives us the three choices for right, center, or left justified. So we just need to double click on horizontal alignment dot right, and it's filled in for us. Okay, we'll do the same thing for text second. We want an assignment statement that will assign horizontal alignment left. Left. Okay, these are both right justified. This will right justify the text for both text first and text second whenever we click it. Okay, start the program, type some text into both text first and text second, click right justify, and the realignment of the two text boxes shows up. The text is now right justified. In order to put it back on the left, let's add an event for that. So go to the designer, double click, and we have the click event. And in this case, since the code is almost identical, let's copy the 2 lines of code that we just did and paste them into this new event. We still need to change the align, text align property, but to make it easy, let's just erase the text alignment dot right and replace it with text alignment dot left. So in this case, we did a copy and paste and made a small change, and it was quick and easy. And we've now got the click event coded so that it will do the left justify. So now start the program up. You can click right justify and it works, and you click left justify and the justification goes back to the left hand side. Notice that even though the text box is disabled, you can still do the right and left justify actions. Well, we're almost done with this, but before closing out, let's look at something neat you can do with a label. First, let's make another copy of a button. So select the last button, Control C will make a copy, paste it with Control V, and we want to resize it as shown. And now we want to add a label. So from the toolbox, just add a label. Go to the name property in the properties window, and we're going to name it LBL icon. So we're going to put some kind of icon in here. We want to be able to size the label, so set auto size to true, and then we can make the label as big as we want. Then choose the font. That will bring up the window dialog box for the font. Scroll down to the bottom and pick Wingdings. Wingdings is a font that is composed of a bunch of little icons or pictures, so we want to pick one of those, and we want to make it pretty big, so we pick bold and we pick the size of 48. And here you can see that several symbols show up. When we return, when we hit enter to return, then we have a smiley face that shows up, which corresponds to the L. Go to the text property for the label and type in uppercase J, K, and L. Now, since we're using the Wingdings font, those translate into the smiley face, frowny face, and non-committal face that you see here. Alright, we want to add some buttons that will change the faces. So let's start out and have the label assigned a value of just capital J, so we have a smiley face. Okay, let's resize the label and move it around a bit. And now let's adjust that button that we just pasted in. Okay, so select the button, then go to the name property, and we're going to name it BTN Smile, because this is a smiley face. Then scroll down, and we're going to set the text to smile. So whenever we click this button, we want to produce a smiley face. Now select the button, make a copy with Control C, paste in the copy with Control V. Name this button BTN Frown. Then scroll down to the text property and replace the text that's there with frown. So now we have a button for smile and a button for frown. Okay, double click on the frown button and we get a click event that goes with button frown, called button frown underscore click, following the same rules that we have for all of our event procedures. Now we want to add an assignment statement that's going to change the label from a smiley face to a frowny face. Alright, so we type the name of the label. The text property is what we want to change. Since we're using the Wingdings font, if we change a character, then we change what the content looks like. And a frowny face would be a capital L, and we have to have double quotes on each side. So the assignment statement is now going to assign a capital L whenever we click frown, but since the label is a Wingding, then L translates to the frown face. Can return to the designer, and we want to be able to make it smile again. So double click on the smile button. We get the click event to go with that, and this will type in an assignment statement that will set the text property back to a smile, which corresponds to a capital J on the keyboard. So we have the frown that's set with using a capital L, and the smile which makes it smile using the capital J value. Now start the program, and now we can translate or go back and forth between the smiley face and the frowny face. Okay, so you can use these wingdings to dress up your program. Alright, well, let's make one more copy of the button frown with Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste, and go to the name property, as you should be accustomed to doing. And this is just going to be a button for quit. So type in for name, btn quit, go down to the text property and type QUIT. And let's do a little bit more. Let's make the Q in quit an access key. Right, so select the quit button, go to the text property and type an ampersand just to the left of the Q. So now we've got an access key for Q, which means we can activate this button with Alt Q from the keyboard. The only thing we need to add to make our program terminate is just the single command end that we put into the click event to go with button quit. So now you can see we've added a lot of event procedures inside our code window. These will only execute depending upon what events we choose. Typing in the text box, clicking a button. So whatever we do from our keyboard or using our mouse, it will activate an event, and those events you see listed there. Alright, now we're all finished. We want to save our program, so select Save All and follow the procedures to save your project. This concludes the Introduction to Events tutorial for Visual Basic 2008.